Everyone saw the headlines. No one saw the monster. It began on a quiet November night in Moscow, Idaho, a small college town surrounded by pine trees where life moved at a calm, almost sleepy pace. Until November 13th, 2022, the night that peace shattered. 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were brutally murdered inside their rented off-campus home. The kind of story no one wants to believe could happen in a town like this. That morning, as the sun rose, Moscow police received a call they would never forget. Inside the house on King Road, officers walked into a nightmare. Blood on the walls, silence in every room, and 4 young lives stolen in the most violent way imaginable. For days, no one knew who did it. The town was terrified. Students fled home. Parents begged their kids not to go out at night, and police, overwhelmed, tried to piece together a crime scene that looked like something out of a horror film. At first, everyone was a suspect. A mysterious stalker, a jealous ex, or maybe a random break-in gone wrong, but nothing seemed to fit. There was no sign of forced entry, no valuables missing. Whoever did this had walked straight into that house and knew exactly where to go. Then came the white Hyundai Elantra. Surveillance cameras from a nearby neighborhood caught it driving past the house again and again, moments before the murders. The car became the center of everything. Police had their first real lead. Hundreds of miles away in Pullman, Washington, just across the state line, a 28-year-old criminology PhD student named Bryan Kohberger was living alone in his small apartment. He was quiet, smart, awkward. He taught classes, studied serial killers, and often talked about criminal behavior like it was a puzzle to solve. But when investigators traced the white Elantra to him and matched his phone records showing he'd been near the victim's home multiple times before the murders, the picture started to change. Still, they needed proof, something that would hold up in court. Detectives began tracking his every move, his phone, his car, even his grocery trips. What they found was chilling. Kohberger had turned his phone off for several hours the night of the murders, only to turn it back on just before driving back to Pullman, almost like he knew someone would be watching. And then came the DNA. On a knife sheath left behind in one of the bedrooms, crime scene techs found a single trace of DNA. It was so faint, it could have been missed entirely. But modern forensic testing doesn't miss much. When the results came back, the sample was matched through genealogical databases to Bryan Kohberger's family. Police finally had enough to move in. December 30th, 2022, a small town in Pennsylvania. Bryan Kohberger was at his parents' home for a winter break when police and the FBI surrounded the house in the middle of the night. They kicked in the door and took him down quietly. No fight, no emotion, just a blank stare as they cuffed him and led him out into the cold morning air. The world suddenly knew his name. The question now wasn't who, but why. Bryan Kohberger had studied criminology for years. He was obsessed with understanding the minds of killers. He once asked classmates how someone could commit a crime and get away with it. Some described him as socially awkward, detached. Others said he looked at people like they were experiments. When the news broke, his classmates were stunned. A criminology student accused of committing one of the most brutal mass murders in modern college history. But there was something darker underneath. Court documents revealed that Kohberger had been stalking the area around the victim's home for months. Cell tower data showed he'd been near their neighborhood at least 12 times before the killings. 12. It was as if he'd been studying them, watching, planning. Investigators say he parked down the hill from the house that night, crept up the side, and entered through a sliding glass door. One of the surviving roommates later told police she heard crying, a man's voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Then she saw a figure in black clothes and a mask walk past her and out the door. The attack had lasted only minutes. 4 victims, each stabbed multiple times. No signs of sexual assault, no robbery, just rage. After his arrest, Kohberger was extradited to Idaho. Every camera in the nation was watching as he walked into court, shackled and wearing a bulletproof vest. His eyes darted across the room. No emotion, no regret. His lawyers claimed there was no direct evidence linking him to the crime, that the DNA could have been transferred, that the media had already convicted him in the public eye. But prosecutors had a story that was hard to ignore. The car, the phone data, the DNA, the behavior. And still, one mystery remains. Motive. Why those 4 students? Why that house? Some believe Kohberger was driven by academic curiosity, the twisted desire to prove he could pull off the perfect crime. Others think it was personal, that he may have fixated on one of the victims. Police have never confirmed a direct link. In the months that followed, new details kept surfacing. Body cam footage of Kohberger during a traffic stop, showing him calm and polite while driving across the country with his father. Security footage of him grocery shopping days after the killings, acting completely normal, like nothing had happened. That calm is what disturbed people most. How someone could commit such a horrifying act and then go back to daily life, teaching classes, eating dinner, grocery shopping, like it was just another week. When asked, his former classmates said he often criticized police investigations, claiming they were sloppy and unscientific. He believed he could outsmart the system, but the system caught him. The case has now become one of the most closely watched murder trials in America. The evidence, the psychological questions, and the eerie sense that a man who studied killers might have become one himself. The house where it happened has since been demolished. Families of the victims didn't want it to become a spectacle, a dark tourist spot. All that remains now is a patch of land, quiet again, like Moscow before that November night. And somewhere in an Idaho jail cell, Bryan Kohberger waits, a criminology student who thought he understood evil until he became the face of it. They say monsters hide in plain sight. Sometimes they sit in our classrooms. Sometimes they drive white cars through quiet college towns. And sometimes they take everything, just to see if they can get away with it.